Section 3.3.1 Introduction to Criminal Defenses. I'm Dr. Adam McKee, and today, we're diving into an exciting section from my book, Criminal Justice, an overview of the system. We're exploring Section 3.4 Legal Defenses, a fascinating part of criminal law that often twists and turns in ways you might not expect. In the intricate dance of criminal justice, the spotlight often falls on the prosecution, tasked with the monumental responsibility of proving a defendant's guilt. This isn't just about telling a convincing story, it's about constructing an irrefutable chain of evidence that demonstrates, beyond a reasonable doubt, both the actus reus, the physical act of the crime, and the mens rea, the intent or mental state behind the act. Picture the actus reus as the skeleton of the crime, the concrete actions taken, and the mens rea as the soul, the malicious or negligent intent that animates those actions. Together, they form the body of proof necessary for a conviction. However, the narrative of guilt doesn't close with the presentation of these elements. The justice system, in its pursuit of fairness and truth, provides defendants with a powerful counter, the ability to present defenses. But what exactly does this entail? A defense in criminal law is essentially a counterargument to the prosecution's claims. It's the other side of the story, offering new context, justifications, or explanations for the defendant's actions that can shift perspectives on culpability and guilt. Think of it as the defendant's chance to say, yes, but, to the accusations leveled against them. There are two main types of defenses: justifications and excuses. Justifications argue that the actions, while typically deemed wrong, were right in the context of the situation. It's acknowledging the act but asserting it was necessary under the circumstances. For instance, self-defense is a classic justification. If someone is attacking you, and you injure them to protect yourself, you're arguing that your actions, though harmful, were justified because they prevented greater harm to yourself. Excuses, on the other hand, admit that the actions were wrong but claim that the defendant should not be held fully responsible due to some mitigating circumstances. This could include situations where the defendant was not in control of their actions or didn't understand the wrongness of their actions due to mental illness, as in the insanity defense, or was coerced into acting under duress. Justifications and excuses, the two pillars of legal defense. Diving into the heart of criminal law, we encounter two foundational concepts critical to understanding how the legal system navigates the complex terrain of human behavior and culpability: justifications and excuses. These concepts are not merely legal jargon. They represent the nuanced ways in which the law interprets and adjudicates actions that, under ordinary circumstances, would be deemed criminal. By dissecting these pillars, we gain insight into the legal system's capacity for flexibility and empathy, acknowledging the multifaceted nature of human actions. Justifications stand on the premise that certain actions, while generally illegal, can be deemed legally acceptable, even necessary, under specific circumstances. This legal perspective doesn't challenge the nature of the act itself but focuses on the context in which it was committed. A classic example is self-defense. The law recognizes that an individual has the right to protect themselves from harm, even if doing so requires them to perform acts that would typically be considered criminal, such as using physical force against another person. In these cases, the act is not denied but is instead presented as the correct course of action under the circumstances. Justifications assert that the actions taken were warranted and, therefore, should not be punishable. The law, in essence, acknowledges that the moral and legal obligation to protect oneself or others can supersede the general prohibition against harming others. Other examples of justifications might include the defense of others, the defense of property or necessity, where an individual might break the law to prevent a greater harm. While justifications focus on the context of the act, excuses delve into the state of the actor. They recognize that certain conditions or circumstances can impair an individual's ability to make sound judgments or control their actions. Under excuses, the act is acknowledged as wrong, but the defendant claims that they should not be fully held responsible due to these impairing conditions. The insanity defense is a prime example, positing that a severe mental disorder can inhibit an individual's capacity to understand the nature or wrongness of their actions. Similarly, duress acknowledges that severe external pressures can force a person into acting against their will or better judgment. Intoxication can also serve as an excuse, under limited circumstances, by arguing that the defendant was not in a state to fully grasp or control their actions due to the influence of drugs or alcohol. Unlike justifications, excuses do not claim that the act was right or warranted. Instead, They argue for a diminished level of culpability because the defendant's autonomy, judgment, or understanding was compromised. The law, through excuses, recognizes that not all individuals are fully in control of their actions at all times and that this lack of control can significantly mitigate their responsibility for those actions. The legal and moral landscape. The distinction between justifications and excuses is crucial for navigating the legal and moral landscape of criminal justice. Justifications challenge us to consider the circumstances under which illegal acts might not only be permissible but necessary. Excuses, on the other hand, invite empathy and understanding, acknowledging that human frailty can diminish our ability to adhere to legal and ethical standards. Together, these pillars of legal defense underscore a fundamental principle of justice: the importance of context and intention in evaluating culpability. By differentiating between justifications and excuses, the legal system endeavors to balance the letter of the law with the complexities of human nature, ensuring that verdicts reflect not just the actions, but the nuanced circumstances and states of mind that give rise to those actions. The insanity defense. Unraveling myths and realities. The insanity defense, often misunderstood and sensationalized, offers a profound example of an excuse defense. Contrary to common perception, claiming insanity is not an easy escape route. It necessitates proving that at the time of the crime, the defendant was incapable of understanding the wrongness of their actions due to severe mental illness. This defense is rare and challenging to prove, with various legal tests like the Monotone Rule or the Model Penal Code's substantial capacity test guiding its application. Those who successfully use this defense often find themselves in mental health institutions, sometimes for longer periods than they would have faced in prison. Entrapment. Entrapment presents a unique defense, applicable when an individual commits a crime due to law enforcement persuasion. This defense hinges on proving that the defendant was not predisposed to commit the crime and that the government's involvement went beyond mere solicitation. It underscores the principle that law enforcement should not instigate criminal actions but rather prevent them. Self-defense. The concept of self-defense ties back to the social contract theory, which posits that individuals relinquish certain freedoms in exchange for societal protection. While the government, through law enforcement, typically holds the authority to use force, individuals retain the right to defend themselves in immediate, life-threatening situations. The use of force in self-defense is circumscribed by reasonableness and proportionality, emphasizing that it should be the minimum necessary to counteract the threat. As we navigate through these legal defenses, it's crucial to ponder their broader implications. How do they reflect our societal values, especially concerning accountability, justice, and rehabilitation? What does the balance between individual rights and societal protection tell us about our collective moral compass? In closing, this discussion on legal defenses lays the groundwork for a deeper understanding of the criminal justice system's intricacies. As we move forward, we'll continue to uncover the layers of legal principles and their real-world applications, inviting you to join us on this enlightening journey. Stay tuned for our next segment, where we'll explore another fascinating aspect of criminal justice, further enriching our knowledge and appreciation of this complex field.